Hey friends, how's it going? It's Michael here. Just wanted to jump on here and do another live video for us all today. I'm trying to use this forum as an opportunity to discuss with you and have you post beneath here questions and feedback and experiences about the various issues that continue to come up for me in my work with clients and questions that I seem to be getting a lot of from many different people. So today's topic is really on the topic of entities, of these non-physical entities. If you've been on a spiritual path for some time, you probably have some familiarity with what is meant by this idea of spiritual entities. Some people, even who have not been traditionally on a very conscious path, are very aware of having these non-physical attachments into their energy, and sometimes they can be really quite disruptive, quite bothersome, quite problematic. Most of the times they're not in an extreme difficult level, but sometimes they really can be there. And so people will come to my doorstep, and I won't know anything else about them necessarily, but they'll tell me, can you help me to clear and get rid of these entities? They'll tell me, they're waking me up at night, they're keeping me up, they're really disrupting things. Even more extreme than that, they feel these beings touching them. All sorts of things up to that level of extreme and beyond. So I want to give a little bit of context here and be able to talk about what are these entities, and to the best of my knowledge and best of my understanding, what do we do about them? So entities are not something that simply can be cleared by another practitioner in spite of our own consciousness. I want to make that clear. It doesn't really matter if I am particularly adept or talented, or you find somebody else who's adept or talented at a particular entity removal, because the technique involved isn't the most essential factor. I want to relate this for a moment to relationships that we have with other people that we can see here on the physical. We all know some people on this planet. We all have a history of certain relationships. There's many other people out there that we hear about that we don't necessarily know anything about, but sometimes even in the news or in movies we can even feel other people's energies even if we don't physically know them. The spirit world works very similarly. There's very few people I know, including myself, that have completely healed all of their past relationships, like completely forgiven everything, let everything from the past go, and are completely poised in this moment for nothing but joy-filled, supportive, healing relationships. That's a process that many of us are on through therapy or through clearing work or through our own path of evolution to some degree. But we may still be energizing certain programs and energies of anger, bitterness, resentment, fear, from past relationships, even that we are aware of from this life, like our parents, past lovers, and romantic relationships. So entities and non-physical beings that can be attached to us are much like those types of relationships. They sometimes are beings that we have had relationship with in this or other lifetimes that happen to be in the non-physical right now. Sometimes there are beings who are simply attuned to the kind of vibration that we're putting down. If we're in a chronic state of fear, anxiety, worry, stress, overwhelm, not standing in our own power, not setting appropriate emotional boundaries, even here on the earth in our physical relationships, or if our energetic boundaries have gotten blown open and they're in a non-healed, non-coherent state for other reasons, this can produce a vulnerability and a tendency and propensity to pick up these non-physical energies. So the issue is always, what I'm trying to say is that the issue is always within us. It's not necessarily, when people say, these entities are bothering me, can you clear them for me? It's kind of like when people would come to any person who works in relationship work, say a therapist, and say, well, all of these, ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends in my life, they're all annoying me, there's no good people out there to be in a relationship with. Can you fix this seemingly external problem or situation? And a trained person in this work will say, well, the problem and the issue is not outside of you. You're picking up what you're putting down. You're seeing in your life what you're vibrating to. And so we can't really shift the problem because the problem doesn't exist outside of your own consciousness. You have to figure out how am I engaging with the creation of this outcome. Take responsibility for it, not blame, but take responsibility and begin to work with releasing that. I would say the same thing ultimately comes down to being true when we're dealing with entities. There can be, for some people who are skilled at entity removal, there can be some initial progress made along these lines with removing some or all of the entities. And sometimes the entities do not get completely removed all at once, or sometimes they come back. This has to do with the fact that the person is really not ready or prepared to let them go. Not because they don't want them to go, it's because they haven't yet done the internal clearing, healing work that needs to happen in order for them to be able to let it go. Many different books and websites that you can read about the issues of entities will tell you that when there's deeply repressed anger, resentment, bitterness, energies of trauma, self-hatred, hatred towards others, when these very strongly emotional energies have been repressed, either in this or other lifetimes, that tends to make the tendencies for us to pick up these entities stronger. So we want to go back down. In order to heal the entity issue, we want to go back within ourselves, realize that we have responsibility for our outcome, just like we would say that is true in any human relationship that we have. And we can go back and begin to do that work. Again, many people are not really looking for that. They're looking for kind of a quick fix. Why are the entities bothering me? Please get rid of them. But remember, we're here for more than simply to feel temporarily a little bit better. We're here to evolve our own souls. And there is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. If this has been something plaguing you, or you have some chronic issues with this, or you haven't been able to, I've had some clients in the past that no matter what we did, they were not able to really rid themselves of these energies. And it ended up really being, you could feel within the person that they were losing power. They were feeling victimized in other areas of their life. They were unwilling to stand up for themselves in other contexts. And this was sort of a representation, almost like a badge that they were wearing of like, look at these entities that no one, not even skilled healers can help me to get rid of. And my point in having that discussion with them was to say, we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at, why am I attracting this? How is it reflecting of me? Without blame. This is very challenging for many people to do. How do you take responsibility for your outcome without taking blame for why it's happening the way that it is? So we want to take that responsibility. We want to go within. We want to look at, what strongly held energies am I holding on to right now? Chronically, what am I chronically feeling in my life? What have I been holding on to? If I think back to certain relationships in the past, with my parents, with romantic relationships, all the way through from my birth to now, what have been the outcomes of those situations? Even if they don't feel like I'm thinking about them every day, there can still be a strong amount of emotional repression beneath the surface. And so it's very important for us to do that inner work. As we do that, we become free. We become free not only of the non-physical problematic relationships that we have, we become more and more empowered in our human relationships. Our human relationships and the relationships that we have with the non-physical begin to become more coherent, begin to become more positive, more supportive, more affirming of life. We tend to have fewer problems. From that perspective, we still have things to do, but we tend to have fewer things that would seem to be labeled as a problem as we begin to come back into the power of who we truly are. I will say one last technique and tip around entities here is not only an emotional and mental issue, but it's also, how vital are you? How vital do you feel? How vital is your energy field? Vitality is not just a function of emotion and our thoughts, it's also a function of our diet. It's a function of how we are treating our physical body. Sometimes people who are having chronic entity issues are dealing with eating very low quality foods, or are not supporting themselves in the physical world the way that they might. One piece of feedback I often give to people who are communicating with me about this is to try to work with more nutritious food, and also there are particular herbs that are commonly available that are generally recognized as safe that can be very, very protective of not only your physical health, and not only protecting you from viruses, for instance, or from picking up on a cold that someone else around you may have, but they're also strongly energetically protective. Those might include Schizandra berry, for instance, commonly available as a tincture or in formulas. This might include reishi mushroom. There are many other types of traditional herbs that can be very protective and strengthening to your energy field and also strengthening to your physical vitality. So I'm going to sort of leave it at that for now. I invite any of you to post comments, questions below. There's much more to this topic than that I could say, but I just want to basically say, without any sense of blame here, that if we're having chronic entity issues, or if we have had them in the past, we're never a victim of anything. We may believe that we're a victim of something, but we're never actually a victim. And so we have to look within ourselves, be able to say, what is it within me that I can open up more to, that I can release, that I can forgive, that I can let go of, that is causing me to be in this compromised energetic situation. There may be more than one thing, and it may become more open over time. The most important thing, though, initially is to recognize we have the power to change our situation, we have the power to change our circumstances, and taking that, and because the power is within us to do this work, we don't have to feel like we're the victim of things happening to us from the outside. Take our power back, and we begin to generate that vitality that allows us to be naturally in a state of protection. So I'll leave it here for now, friends. Thanks so much for watching. Look forward to seeing your comments below. Till next time, friends. Peace.